Hello! In this chapter you will learn how to use the imperative in German. Willkommen zu Abschnitt 30. In diesem Abschnitt geht es um den Imperativ, or also called imperative in English. Now let's look at how we are using the imperative, or in which situations. The usage is Gebrauch, der Gebrauch in German, the usage. So we use it for demands, die Aufforderung. We use it for orders. Der Befehl is the order. Die Bitte for requests. Die Mahnung for admonitions. Die Mahnung, yeah, and die Warnung for warnings. So this is what we use in order to give orders, for example, most of the time, and saying do this, do that, go here, go there, and so on. This is what the imperative is about. Okay, and there are the different situations where we apply that. So let's have a look at how we're forming the imperative in German. This is here for regular verbs, for regelmäßige Verben. Now, let's have a look at the chart here. Here you have the singular form, the plural form, both informal. Okay, if you talk to somebody with du oder ihr, if it's informal, and singular and plural in the formal way. So it doesn't matter whether you talk to one person or to several people in the formal way, the imperative form, it is the same. So for the singular, if you talk to somebody, to one person in the informal way, let's say to your friend and so on. So here we have the verb kommen, to come. So the imperative form is come. It means come, like come here, for example, come. So as you see, you just need the stem of the verb come, and you take away the en. What is left is the stem, and this is equal with as the imperative form in German. So come, you just, for the regular verbs, you just need to take away the en, and this is the imperative form. Kommt, this is the same conjugation as ihr kommt, right? You are coming. It means ihr kommt, and the plural, and here the imperative form is just kommt. Nothing changes here. You just don't need the personal pronoun. And here, for the formal way, you say kommen Sie. Okay, the conjugation is exactly the same. It would be Sie kommen, which means either they come or you come in the formal way. And here, if you use it in the imperative form, you first put the verb and then comes the subject. Kommen Sie. Now it means come to a group of people, but also to just one person in the imperative. Okay, and also in the formal way. Here we have the verb fragen, as you see, exactly the same. You just need the stem, so it's frag, and then frag means ask. Fragt, the conjugation is exactly the same, but you don't need a personal pronoun. And fragen Sie means ask in the formal way. You conjugate it exactly the same, would be Sie fragen, which means they ask, and then you put the personal pronoun in capitals, fragen Sie. Then we have kaufen, to buy. As you see, again, you just have the stem for the singular informal personal pronoun. So du, like if you talk to somebody with du, right, to you, it's just kauf. Kauft for the plural form, exactly the same. Ihr kauft, it would be like you are buying, and here it's the imperative form, kauft. Kaufen Sie means buy in the formal way. Okay, as you see, it's not too difficult. Then the next one. Now we have the irregular verbs. Now, geben, for example, is one of the irregular verbs. It is ich gebe with an I, but it's then du gibst, und sie es gibt. Then the I is changing to an I. So here, as you see, it is also irregular if you talk to somebody in the imperative form. It's gib, which means give. Hilf, lies, miss, nimm, sprich, sieh und sei. Okay, so you need the verb stem, but here the stem is changing. The vowel is changing from an E to an I. Okay, for all of those. This one is very irregular, to be sei. It means be. Let's say be quiet, for example, sei leise. It is very different because it is du bist, you are, but now in the imperative form, it changes to sei. And then the plural form gibt, helft, lest, messt, nehmt, sprecht, seht, seid. Here nothing changes. The conjugation is exactly the same as the conjugation for ihr. So it would be ihr gebt, ihr helft, ihr lest, ihr messt, and so on. Okay, nothing changes, just as on the slide before. Here we have the formal way. Again, nothing changes. You just need the normal conjugation for the third person plural, which is they or you in the formal way. So as you see, nothing changes here, and except of seien sie. Okay, this is irregular design, so it's seien sie. Okay. Then the next one, here we have irregular verbs without umlaut, unregelmäßige Verben ohne umlaut. So as you see here, those are irregular, and the stem changes equally in the imperative form, right? It is exactly the same. But in this group we have also irregular verbs, but in the imperative form it's not changing. In the imperative form the vowel does not change, although they are irregular. Schlafen is one of them, which is to sleep. Du schläfst, you sleep, but now in the imperative form it's schlaf. You don't say schläf with an a umlaut as it was in the slide before. So those ones are a little bit irregular. This group of imperative forms, please learn those. Okay. So here ihr schlaft, nothing changes, and here nothing changes either. So those stay all the same, the conjugation, but now we have to watch out for those. Here fahren, to drive, fährt, oder du fährst, for example, but in the imperative form it's fahr. The a umlaut goes back to a normal a. Lauf, lass und halten. Okay, please study this group of verbs. Then the next slide, here we have the ending I with the stem ending with ik. Das Endungs-E bei Verbstämmen auf ik. So here what it says, that verbs that end with an ig or ik, ig, you have to add an extra e for the imperative form for do. Okay, so here is written, Verben mit der Stammendung ik haben in der Regel im Imperativ Singular ein Endungs-E. Okay, verbs with the stem ending ik have as a rule an e at the end of the singular imperative form. So here beleidigen, so it is beleidig here at the end of their stem. After taking away the en, we have the stem beleidig. It ends with an ik here, ig, ik here, ik, and also ik. Okay, so this is the group here. So if here you see the English translation, and as you see the imperative form, it's beleidig. You have to add an extra e here. In the slides before, we learned that you just use the stem of the verb for the singular imperative form, but for this group of verbs you have to add an extra e. So beleidige, berichtige, beschuldige, bestätige, entschuldige dich. Sich entschuldigen is reflexive to apologize, so we say to apologize oneself. So here you have to add the reflexive form. Entschuldige dich, apologize yourself. It means like apologize. You have to apologize. Erkundige dich. Sich erkundigen means to get information. Erkundige dich means like get yourself information, let's say. And reinigen means to clean. Here you also have to say reinigen. Here the conjugation stays exactly the same as for the personal pronoun ihr. Okay, and here the plural, the formal singular and plural form is also the same. You just have to use the same conjugation for that. Okay, so please study those. Okay. Then the next group, here we have verbs with the stem ending t or d. Verben mit dem Stammende t oder d. So here as you see, all verb stem ends with a t or a d after taking away the en. Here you have the translations, and in those cases here you also have to add an extra e. Okay, so antworten, the verb stem is antwort, but as you see here you have to add an extra e at the end for the singular imperative form. Okay, so it's not just Antwort. Antwort would mean the answer as a noun, but here you have to say antworte, arbeite, beobachte, and so on. You have to add an extra ie for the singular imperative form. Please study this group of verbs here. And here the plural form stays exactly the same as the conjugation of ihr. Ihr antwortet, ihr arbeitet, ihr beobachtet, and so on. Okay, nothing changes here. If you know the normal conjugation of those verbs, then you also know how to use the imperative. It's exactly the same. And here also the conjugation doesn't change either in those cases. Okay, so it's actually equal with the infinitive form. Antwort in the infinitive form is before we conjugate the verb as it is. Or maybe I will zoom it a little bit so you can actually see here also. Okay. Good. So that is there are some verbs that belong to this group. Of course, there are many more, but here for you just to know regular verbs with a stem ending T or D. Okay. Then the next slide, verbs that end with n or n. So most verbs in German end with an en, right? As we have learned, most of them, or maybe about 80% more or less. But we also have verbs that end with n or n, as you see, as you will learn here. So here an e is optional. Optional in German it's also optional. So let's look at, for example, this verb, it's erobern, to conquer. So either you can say erobere or you can say erobere. Both is possible. You can here erobern, you can keep the e here, but you can also just omit it. Both is possible. Okay, as you like. Erobere, erobere, fordere, fordere, handele, handle, lächle, lächle. Grammatical in grammatical terms, both is correct. You can use either way. Okay. Then we have here the plural form. It's exactly the same. Ihr erobert. The conjugation does not change. Ihr fordert, ihr handelt, ihr lächelt, and so on and so forth. Just for you to see that also. And then for the plural formal way, it's exactly the same again. The conjugation does not change. You just have to use the personal pronoun sie capitalized after the verb for the imperative form. Erobern sie. Okay? If there was a question mark, actually it's also the same word order as the question. Erobern Sie. This is how we would ask the question. I hope you remember. We start with the verb and then comes the personal pronoun if we ask the question. Okay, erobern Sie. But here it's the imperative. Good. Then that was about it with the imperative. So please study all those verbs. They are all useful, and of course also how to form the imperative form. So basically what you have to keep in mind is just that the singular imperative form is changing. The plural informal way and the formal way, no matter whether it's plural or singular, stays the same. The conjugation does not change, but it's always the singular form that you have to watch out for. Okay, then I hope you learned many new things. Now you know how to give orders in German. And yeah, then see you in the next chapter. Bis zum nächsten Abschnitt. Tschüss.